folk of Harrow County put the witch to death, but the witch did not die easily. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, and neither will I, because I'm the unknown factor, and it's a quest, and I'm the Wade Wilson of motherfucking hip hop. Thought y'all knew, right? Right? But like I say every time, this ain't about hip hop, ladies and gentlemen. This is on that comic book tip. Yeah. And I'm loving it. Look, shout out to everybody that's been on the show. It's been a pleasure. I hope y'all are keeping track. Some of the last episodes we've had have been phenomenal, man. And I know this one is going to be as well because, we've had somebody that is on that whole, tunes and cars tip. That being, Jason Sylvester, who I pronounced his name right, but oh my god, it don't look like I did if you go back and look at the fucking interview. He'll tell you himself, everybody butchers his fucking name, right? Right? I mean that's just how it is, yeah. But today on the show, yeah, we've got Joseph Krejci. Right? Yeah, shit. I was like, man, I have doubted myself, Joe. I did. I was like, Krejci. Yeah, Krejci. Yeah, no, that's what he said. He said Krejci. Yeah, see? And then, man, I said, can I say, Joe, when we had Jason on, I said Sylvester. He's like, yeah, you've got that right. And I was like, he's like, nobody gets that shit right. So,
No, I just usually wait. I hear Joe, and then I'll pause, and then I know that's me. Like the doctors will say Joe, and they'll be like sort of a it's like, yeah, that's it. That's it.
I wonder how many guests share that in common with you, to be real honest, Joe, because I wouldn't be surprised if it was quite a few with some of the people that we've had on here.
Well,
And
I honestly think, I honestly think it's probably that some people come up with like surnames or false authors' names. It's not an ego thing; it's a functional thing. Like I've joked, like on a lot of stuff, I'll have it marked as Joe 5 or Joe 5 Art is like most of the stuff that I've worked, because no one remembers my last name. Even people who know me fairly well will have trouble with it. So it's like it's a liability. It's like I want to actually be identifiable.
the funny thing is, my full actual name, who none of the creators know that have been on the show. Some of them think they do. I think it's funny. Is pretty easy. I mean, even if I just went by what I went by on Facebook, man, it'd be pretty simple. That's a simple, easy to remember name. But then it's like the unknown factor. That makes you go, what? And yeah, I mean, it definitely works in the hip hop aspect. But I get your name. I get your thoughts as far as on people, with pen names, because yeah, I mean, when you got one that just, it's like, look, nobody can pronounce this, and you're trying to get, like, make it to where you're notable in anything, yeah, that could certainly cause you some problems. But on something that's notable, I want to know, on these 3 wishes, man, you're right. You can't wish for more wishes or more genies. All right. I would, if anybody ever sent that back, like, I would wait until the show and I'd be like, fuck your wish, dude. That's bullshit. And you know it flat out, right? But you still only wrote 2 down. What's up with that?
Sorry?
You only wrote 2 wishes down.
I would probably, and this sounds like a bit of cop, I would probably hold on the 3rd one. Do 2 big ones, enjoy the change, hold on to the 3rd one for a while. There's no rule to, you got to choose them all now. You got 30 minutes, crank them out. Are you sure you want to use them all right away? That's like when you get your paycheck at the beginning of the month and you just spend it. Sometimes it's smart to take a 50 or 100, tuck it in the back of your wallet, say, this is just in case something goes south, or this is just in case situation changes,
I was wondering why a 3rd one wasn't there. Joe, that's a pretty legit answer as far as why a 3rd one's not there, man. Yeah, it's because you might be in like a near death, you about to die situation. If you can just suddenly be like, I wish blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Or if you find out you have cancer, it's like all of a sudden it's like, I know what the 3rd one is now.
In all sincerity, though, your first wish covers that, I think, more than you would think that it would, as far as for people to have what they need and empathy instead of hate. Because, well,
One
because
would
the thing,
hope.
huh?
I don't know. I don't know if you role play at all or like D&D and stuff like that.
It's been a
I
while.
mean, it's all how you interpret the rules and how you interpret what's said. It's like, yeah, it might, but it's just let's see how it actually plays.
Well, really, then, but if you did, well, see, I think, and this is the third wish that would be easy to say in that case would be a healing factor, you know? But
Yeah,
there's several things about a healing factor because, so what if it's a significant other of yours that has that happen? And then, so
yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I think banking it's probably a pretty good idea. I still think my three wishes are probably really good. I might fill out one of these questionnaires one day and actually give my opinion. I probably won't. I'm just being honest, Joe. But man, let's get into what you do, right?
Okay.
And what you do, man, is like first off, my boy's a fan. That's how. That's the
Okay.
first comic I got my boy into was cartoons. It was we were walking through Comic Book University, and I was just trying to like point out things to him, and then I seen that book, and I was like, "Hey, look, bub!" And man, his eyes lit up when he
Yeah.
seen this thing that was like what Daddy was reading, but it was full of cars because he loves cars. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What do you think it is as far as working on a book like that? Because you work on a book in cartoons as well as Barrels and Monkeys. Or wait, no, fucking
Barrel
Barrel of
Grease
Grease
Monkeys. Fine.
Monkeys. Sorry, I was reading the shit earlier and I fucked the name up, dude. My bad. Barrel of Grease
No, that's
Monkeys.
fine.
That you, it's very across the board as far as age. You know what I mean? Like cartoons can be read by someone that's in their 80s and someone that's 4 or 5
Yeah.
by like their father reading it to them.
Yeah.
What's your opinion as far as that being well magazine, but it's comic as well. It's in that middle ground in my opinion that is on that level where it doesn't really have an age range.
I mean, their goal is to try to keep it all ages, or at least readable by all ages, where you're not doing something that's going to be an issue with younger readers. And I personally, I've kind of been on board with that with a lot of the projects I've worked on because it's nice not to have to kind of say, "Oh, you can't read that," or kind of away. I mean, I understand that there's certain stories or certain subjects where you can't keep it young reader because what the material isn't going to let you get away with it. But especially when you're doing like it's cars and it's humor, and honestly, like what I do is mostly either humor or like action adventure. And there's no reason you need to really amp that up to an adult only level, And like the one thing that I make fun of working on it is the fact that not only are not allowed to use curse words, but sometimes they'll come back. This is the only really editing I get from them. It's like I think one time was like someone was a jerk. And I got back, you can't use jerk because jerk kind of pushes into like, jerk off, and we don't want people thinking about jerking off. And I'm just started thinking, I cannot think of a word much more generic than jerk. I'm gonna have to back up and kind of think this one through a little bit because you caught me here and I'm having trouble.
What did you end up doing in that case?
I've gone a lot to where not like in Shakespeare and stuff, you can do a lot of insult and you can do a lot of stuff that's insulting without really, using particularly bad words or stuff. And it's actually, if you write it well, it can be more fun anyways. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know. I mean, I don't know if
If
you
you call
noticed. I got.
someone an S head, that's fine. But if you say he's a flaming pile of poo, A, it's clean. B, it's more funny. C, it gives you better visual. It's like it's an all around win.
I mean, true. I like. I don't know if you've noticed. I kind of got a mouth of a sailor. Um, I'm a little.
Yeah, I'm not that great in real life, but in the book and the series, I do try to make a point of, you know, working around it. And like I said, and it is nice because you're not having to worry about, oh, the kid's looking at that, or oh, someone gave that their grandson, you know, and worry. It's like, no, it's all reasonably clean, you know.
Oh, firstly, in my opinion, right there, I don't think that should be something that creators should have to worry about. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be monitoring as a parent what your child is consuming, and at least addressing with them as far as if you're giving them something that has some language or something in it that they shouldn't be just throwing at someone. You know, you need to explain that it's a fictitious situation. Why do you think it is that so many people in society want to place that on the creators of that as opposed to take responsibility as fucking parents?
And I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think the problem is, as a creator, you're the ones trying to sell it. And if you're publishing yourself, you're the ones trying to market it. And it's something that if you don't do it and they screw up, you still end up being the one that gets the grief. Whether it's them not buying the product or them going online and them saying, oh, we don't like Joe's work because, you know, he said son of a bitch and he had gay people in there. Oh, my God. You know, it's like, well, you know, yeah, it's not my fault. Yeah, some of it's not even wrong. But in the end, I'm the one that's going to eat it. You know, I'm the one that's getting the complaint. I'm the one that's losing the sales. I'm the one that's having to have the argument or try to work my way around having that argument.
See, and maybe
it's like a form of self-censorship, and it's not super cool. But I mean, you kind of pick your battles where you do and where you're not going to go for it. Like in the series, if you really read between the lines, there is a trans character and there are a couple possibly gay characters, but they don't have like a shirt saying I'm gay and a big rainbow. You know, I mean, they're there, and if you look at how they act, it would make sense. But it's not like a big showboat flag waving. You know, it's just they're there.
I think
They're there like in real life, and that's just part of life.
Yeah, I think it's better when they're done like that. I think, in my opinion, where they've been done best in comics like that is the book Saga. As far as, you know, they're not trying to be a big flag about it. It's just, hey, these people are who these people are, and you know, sometimes certain moments happen. And it's like, oh, you know, like I guess that's that. I didn't know that, but now they obviously showed that, but they didn't make it a big deal with the character until a particular moment. And I truly enjoy that as far as within writing. But as far as um what you said, and you know, people wanting to come at you, like, look, if a parent come at me, like, man, my kid was listening to your music and blah 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 blah, I look at them and would be like, well, why the fuck didn't you listen to it before you let them listen to it? Shut the fuck up. And that would literally, like, I would have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
I would be like, be a parent. Like I know for a fact, like, my son listens to some of my music. You know, there's some music of mine I let him listen to. I have other tracks. I'm like, dude, you need to be like 16 before I let you listen to any of this. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just the blatant truth of, like, I don't mind him listening to Holy Book, where it's like literally about trashing religions and just making a point that's true as far as, you know, you all are feeding into this, but you know, there's other stuff where I'm like, this is just blatantly sexual, and my son doesn't need to hear it until he's way older, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of sad that parents do that, especially knowing, which from Dave, who hosts This Month in Comics, and hopefully you'll be able to see the solo episode of him doing This Month in Comics, because I wasn't able to join him because things have been kind of mad. As I was saying, but Dave, he works at Comic University, and he's had like 11, 12-year-olds walk up trying to buy Crossed, which is, do you know Crossed, the graphic?
Yeah.
Okay, great story.
Yeah.
What kind of parent are you? Yeah, what kind of parent are you if your 12-year-old's trying to buy it? You know?
It's a tough call, and it's a parent call. But yeah, and there's stuff that's really not age appropriate. You know, like that's one of the beefs I have with like some of the superhero movies. Like when my son was little, like the first like Spider-Man and Batman and that were coming out. I mean, for like kids that are like, you know, single digit age, some of that stuff's real, and they're into the comic, they're in the character, like, oh, let's see this, and it's like, It's about a psychotic killer who wipes out an entire city. Maybe we should pause on that thought. You know? Maybe we wait a couple years before we watch that film, just until you're a little, more emotionally ready to have that one. And that's kind of the bummer with some of the hero films, because people get excited about it, and it's really not. Kids get excited about it, and the things are not really appropriate for kids. And that's the one bummer about the darker, grittier thing, is they keep being darker, grittier, more adult, but the base audience, or the original audience, was supposed to be for younger kids and younger readers, and a lot of it really isn't that good for them anymore.
I mean,
there's some are better than others. But I forget that there was the one Batman where like the entire city goes insane, because of Scarecrow and some other stuff, and it's just like, and we're talking like someone's like 6 or 7. It's like, we might be a little young. Maybe hold off a year or two.
I mean, that's true, and I think that is important as a parent, if you're gonna try and get your kid into those things, to make sure that you take them the proper route. You know what I'm saying? Like, go see Into the Spider-Verse. You know what I mean? That's one that you don't have to worry so much about.
That's and like the Shazam ones. I mean, those are the Shazam ones actually kind of get back to that, where it's more fun being a hero instead of it's dark and it's gritty and just that. It's like, no, if you had superpowers, it'd be fun. At least conceptually, it'd be fun. It's like, imagine how it's like to fly. Imagine how it's like to do that. I mean, that's all neat and fun and happy concepts. And that's what get young kids into a lot of the superhero genre originally, is the idea of having that abilities and doing that type of stuff.
Okay. But what do you think it'd be like in real life, Joe?
I'm going to leave this door open. Sorry.
His dog is being a pain.
That's being a puppy. She's like that. It really depends. Like, I think on your question here, you asked about what superpower you'd want. And it's come up a couple times. I really thought this one out. And I would really want, like, the power of Magneto. And whether I really plan to go superheroing or not, I think it would be incredible power. It's like, I want to do cars. I can do custom body work with my mind. I can build stuff. I want to do sculpture. I can do sculpture using my powers. I can, I mean, people who like there's like a certain part or certain something they need, you'd be able to just build it. I mean, that would just be an awesome, functional, and creatively and just mechanically, an awesome skill to have.
Well, let me ask you, why not just go with straight telekinesis?
Telekinesis can only move stuff. You can't transform stuff as much. Unless you like talking about the real high end, like Jean Grey stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about like a high end. Yeah.
Those powers. I mean, there is, and I think this is true in some stories and very much in real life, that if you have so much power, people are going to want to get their part of that power. If you're producing stuff, you make stuff for them, give it to them, they go away. If you can like control minds and persuade people, and you know what I mean, you get to a certain power level, and you're going to have a certain level of powerful people take interest in you.
I do think if you just straight had like Jean Grey Phoenix Force level power, though, like, you could make them all go away.
Yeah. I mean, at some high end, you could. Yeah. I don't know if I really want to be there. Like I said, I would be really happy. It's like, Joe's shop and knocking out artwork and making custom cars and
I just want to say,
and
that's dope. But you would still get dissected, Joe.
Yeah,
you would still get dissected by somebody trying to figure out how's he moving these metals without touching them. I don't know.
Well, the other thing
Let's
is
cut his brain open.
would you let people know, or would you just have a closed shop? People drop off their shit. It goes into the back room. You knock it out and you roll it out. People know you're doing it. They don't know how you're doing it. I don't know if that'd actually be worse or better though. Because
I don't know how
curiosity
long.
kills people.
Yeah, I don't know how long you could keep up the facade either, based on the fact
Yeah.
of how quick you would be turning things out. It would be an unrealistic measure. There would be companies coming after you, and you would end up having governments being like, "How the fuck are you
You
doing
hire a
this?"
bunch of midgets and have them become Oompa Loompas and sing crappy songs as you work on it to take the concentration off of you. Oh, that would be worth it just over the comedy and the fact that it would actually work too.
How's he getting so much done? Dude, he hired a bunch of little people. What? Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been painting them orange. The fuck are you talking about? What do you mean he painted them orange? Bro, they're all orange now. What? All right, I'm done here. And people would just walk away. Like if that's what they heard as far as how you were getting that much work done, they'd probably be like, fuck it, whatever. And just
Yeah, they just walk away. It's like, this is too weird. We're leaving.
this dude thinks he's the Willy Wonka of making cars.
Something like that. Like I said, if you made it a good enough scam, then people would back off because they just don't want to deal with whatever you're up to. Or you come up with something where they can, I can kind of see how he's doing it, and that'd be enough that they'd kind of back out some.
So let's get into what made you come up with the fact of like you just wanted to draw for a profession, Joe.
I have always, when I was a kid, I drew a lot. And really, I've been drawing pretty constantly. There's like a couple years, like around junior high or so, where there was a pause. But I mean, not a big one. And in high school, it was pretty solid. What I actually wanted to do is I really wanted to get into like the comic strips, the newspapers. That was when early on one of the big things I was trying to do. And that's like I was doing political cartoons in high school, and like in my first year of college, I was doing political cartoons, and I was already working on the other comic strip. So I mean, that ended up lasting for 4 more years, and that went to multiple school papers. It did pretty well, though it never actually got into syndication. But that was the original kind of goal.
Why was it specifically comic strips and you didn't ever have a desire for comics? I'm curious. What made it go
I
to that
like
side?
both, but I like the humor. I like humor stuff, and honestly, there's some good humor comics, but there's not a ton of series. I mean, you got like Mad Magazine and Crazy and cartoons. You have a few, but I mean, they really were kind of the fringe. Because mainstream was like the Marvel and DC and the heavy on the heroes and that, and there wasn't a lot there. And honestly, I don't want to call it laziness, but brevity. And it's like I was like, with cartoons, it's like you knock out a 3-page story. It's a nice thing story, and you work on it a month or so, and then it's gone. When you get into a big story, you get into a lot of work, you get into a lot of development. And I mean, with cartoons and Barrel Grease Monkeys, there are some long stories and there are a couple threads that I'm dropping through stuff, but there's still not like really strong ones where every single issue or every single part has to make a real solid attempt to hit on, point A, B, and C, which, is its own thing. And it's weird. It's like I started with strips. I like the short story format now. And part of that's because you get more background. You get some chance to build some stuff up, which you don't get to in the strips. But, I probably will. I'm kind of working on a couple of things for a long story. But yeah, I've been a little shy of getting into it too much. And part of it, I also want to make sure there's an audience for it, and that's been kind of iffy. It's really weird because like with cartoons, they used to give me 4 pages, and then they cut pretty much everyone down to 3 pages, and I was one of the last one to switch over. And 3 pages is not a lot for a story. That's like a page to set up, a page to have the conflict, and a page to try and resolve. It doesn't give you a lot of extra space.
Yeah, no, especially, I mean, if you compare that with some of your favorite story arcs as far as the Phoenix Saga and the Judas Effect from Teen Titans, I mean, those are very long running
Those are a
stories.
couple hundred pages. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like if you tried to do that in 3 pages, that I would be impressed anybody that could tell those stories in 3 pages because there's a lot of content there. Right.
Yeah.
Nothing ever appealed. Like you ever had an inclination to be like, man, I want to draw this superhero or something as far as trying to write a long running story.
I've done a little bit. So I mean, I might in the future. Like I said, I got like 2 or 3 different story things I'm messing around with now that are not barrel grease monkeys, and I'm just really trying to kind of figure out what's actually going to be worth putting the time into. I kind of want to make sure it's a project that's actually going to grab some interest. Because sometimes it's like you can sell yourself on something, think, oh, I love this, this is great, and you try to roll it out to people, start showing around, and it's like, and no one cares,
How do you go about in that process, making it to where you think it has that viability? I mean, because I mean, I understand that as far as being an artist myself, doing music. You don't want to make something that like just no one
You
gives a
draw
shit
bits
about.
and pieces. You say, "Oh, look, here's a couple extra sketches. I'm just going to put them on the site and see if anyone's interested and there's any comments." Or, "Oh, look, I did this one painting, or I did this rough cover." Or here, I'm going to do like this really condensed, like little sort of chunk that's the same sort of story, and put it out and see if there's any real response to it before I go and do a longer one. Actually, one of the things I did was a series based off of what's her name? Hella Nice was a 1920s race car driver,
Okay.
really well known in France. She was like known as the fastest woman in France. But I did like a little 3 page story based off of her, and I kind of wanted to do something sort of in the same time period, sort of but bigger, almost like with more of a Miyazaki type feel. But it was like the test balloon. It's like, I'm going to do a little 3 page story in that style and the same basic thing. I'm going to put it out and I'm going to see if there's what the response is. If I get any feedback, if there's any interest in it, you know? And that's a nice little test balloon. It's like you say with music. I mean, you don't do a whole album. Sometimes you maybe put out a song or put out a clip and say, here's this. And see if there's anything to it before you get overly in.
I don't know. I think me and DKB probably go overly in too quick. Like, fuck it, we're just making an album. But that's just
I've gotten old though, and I'm at the point now. It's you almost get to the point, and it's sad to say, you hit your 50s, you hit your first few health problems. You're like, you know what? There's only so many pages left, sucker. You want to start picking your series and your storylines and that because it sounds sort of morbid. It's not meant to be that way, but there is a finite number of pages you're going to get done. Start thinking about what pages you want those to be.
I mean, that's definitely true, man. And I do think that as far as in doing music, I think it's just for me, it's the concept of what I'm trying to put out and whether there's a depth of one, intelligence, and two, is there a message? That's always been my main thing as far as when I'm creating music. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm just like, hey, this is funny. I'm gonna do that, But for the most part, it's doing something at a greater depth as far as when we make music as Kill a Factor or the Unknown Factor. That's just specifically what I do.
Right.
Do you ever go into things like that? I mean, because I know most of what you do is humorous. You ever go into
Most
like,
of it is humorous, but it swings there occasionally. Actually, I did I think it's an 8-page story about how to build an electric car, which is not doesn't sound like a big deal, but cartoons is really mostly the hot rod and motorheads.
Yeah.
So it stood out there, and I mean it's humorous, but it is basically all the steps you need. It's like you need to do this, you need to do this. This is the type of equipment, you know. It really it'd be like a sort of like an intro guide before you actually found a better reference to actually go do it, you know. And then I did a 3 or 4 page follow up, which was actually racing an electric car and what advantages it would have over a traditional one. Again, not particularly popular, but it's interesting. And one of the series ideas I have is possibly going for more of a futuristic thing, and maybe going for like a somewhat futuristic racing thing, where it really pushes like the idea of sort of like doing the regular story, but also sort of showcasing the different technology. I mean, truth is, you know, it's like right now they're pushing like, oh, we can do batteries. It's like batteries, we can do so much more, and we already have technology to do so much more, and we just don't. You know, and just to sit there and just introduce it, it's like, hey, here's a fuel cell. You take a fuel cell and you hook it up with batteries. You have your own thing that supplies its own energy, and it's ever running. Occasionally you add a little liquid, and that's it. You know, and it's like, and that's not even like futuristic technology. That's stuff that you could put together now that there just isn't interest in actually producing.
Okay, well, that's because the oil companies don't want it produced,
Oh yeah.
Joe. Let's be
Oh
real
yeah.
honest. That's the main reason for that, is because you're gonna get us killed if you keep talking about this.
Well, that's why you do it in a funny book. It's like, oh look, there's monkeys and they're building a fuel cell. You know, instead of saying like, I'm printing diagrams and a blueprint of how to build your fuel cell. You know, it's like introducing. It's like, hey, this is a concept. Hey, it's a bit, you know, it's possible or at least thinkable, or this is kind of what it would be like. You know, it's like throwing out the idea just to kind of throw out the ideas, just to kind of introduce the people. So down the line, because, you know, that's what I'm to a lot of people. Like stuff that you see as a kid, like the comics you read as a kid or the stuff you get introduced as a kid, you're interested in it's a teenager, and you come back to as an adult. That's part of the reason why you keep having all these reboots. It's like people see stuff from and it's the same idea. It's like if you introduce the idea of fuel cell, or you introduce the ideas of these different things now, when it comes up again, someone will say, "Oh, I remember seeing that back then." All right, you know, it hopefully it kind of pays its way forward, because it's at some point, and people love to hear this. At some point, gasoline's not going to be a correct option. I mean, environmentally, supply-wise, I mean, you can come up with a good, reasonably long list of, you know, it's like it's had 100 years. Not saying that it's bad, but it's time to admit there could be other options, and that those options are coming. You know, and they're mandating, like in Europe and places, they already have cutoff dates. Like, we're gonna stop selling gas engines. Bye-bye. You know, people are saying, "Oh, we don't." It's like it's coming. It's absolutely coming, whether you're on board or not. You know, the train is coming to the station.
But can I just say, to that effect, cobalt mining is not a ruse. It's like it's not the tops of frozen French bread pizzas that are used to make lithium batteries. Even though Nick,
Oh yeah.
that was a hilarious answer. Go check out Nick Marakovich's past quest for getting all into that. It was freaking hilarious. Or where him and Fred came on and we talked about Dead Romans. But even cobalt mining, man, does, I mean, that's not good for the environment.
Yeah, at some point, it's the thing is, it's like you try to change it or you stick with what you got. What we got isn't going to keep working, you know, forever. And I mean that's not like a shocking statement to say. Which means we need to at least start looking and thinking about the what's next. It's like when you know you're going to get kicked out of your apartment in 2 months, and instead of looking at other apartments or places to live, you sit there in your apartment and say, "Oh, I'm going to deal with this later." You know, it's going to come. And like I said, the idea of just sort of introducing the concepts. It's like, here's how this could work. Here's something else, you know, because there's at least a good half dozen different technologically possible ways.
Oh yeah.
Now, not jumping away in the future, just with what we got, basically, or reasonably close.
Oh yeah.
And just saying, hey, here they are. Here's how they'd work. Here's some ideas, And if it's in a race situation, you can say, here's the advantages to them. Here's what this would have over this. Here's what you could do with that. Things like that. Just put it in a pebble in the shoe.
Why do you think it is that we as a species have so much of a problem adapting to things in so many different ways? And I mean, this even comes to like, I'm gonna bring this right back to comic books. But when people look at comic books, most people think, oh, they're just picture books, blah blah blah. They're not any kind of form of literature. Which, firstly, and I've said this on Heather Antos's interview, for anybody that says that, I would like to take a nice big hardbound copy of Watchmen and smack them with it just one time.
Yeah.
I don't need more than one time. They'll probably be unconscious after one time based on how big I am and how big that book is. If they're not laying on the floor, I'll be worried about what happens next. But if they're the kind of douche that says that, they'll be laying on the floor. Let's be real honest.
Well, I mean, yeah. You got a couple different things going. I mean, first of all, you have the fact, particularly in the U.S., cartoons, comics were sold as children's stuff. It's for children. This is children level. This is for kids. I mean, it was sold that way. I mean, with comics, it was sold that way from when they first came out, from the Yellow Kid, which was the first comic book, which was based off of stuff from the newspapers. And then they were reprinting stuff from newspapers. And that's how comics got the original name, being funnies. They're funny books because they're from the funnies. They're from the funny pages. And there is that attitude that it's kid stuff and it's stuck. It's like a lot of people, when you say graphic novel, people envision superhero. When you say comics, they envision superhero. It's like comics isn't a genre. It's a way of telling story. It's not controlling what type of story you tell. And a lot of people don't make that division.
Yeah, because if
so you kind of have that past bias, and then you kind of have that sort of that mixed definition. And there's another thing. I think a lot of people, and I mean, I know I suffer from this. Your brain wants what you know. It's like, if I have a choice between something that's a modern book, or if they come out with like Batman 89 or Wonder Woman 77 or was it Batman 66? Where it's like where they do the hero in the style from that time period, which you already well know and like. Those older ones really have a draw value. Even if you sort of mentally know better, it does. Because that's kind of what you want. You not only want to see more Batman, but if you have the preference, you'd rather see the Batman that you know from your childhood, or you already know.
I don't know, man. I I'm about as prone to pick up a Batman comic as you are to sit down and watch Forrest Gump, which I'm not going to do that either. To be frank, I hate that damn movie, and I'm sure we both just draw the
I
bunch
was
of heat.
tortured with it.
And I'm
So,
sure we both just draw the bunch of heat from saying we hate that beloved Tom Hanks. Oh my God, it was so good. No, I watched that shit once. I watched it once. I can only imagine working somewhere where they played it on repeat. I would have ended up like throwing something at a monitor at some point. I really.
I'm sorry. That's the perfect example I'm talking about. Forrest Gump works really well for people that lived through those time periods, because it's literally sort of like a going through and a retelling of all the events that happened in their life. If you were in that age group and you kind of lived through that, Forrest Gump is entirely different for you, because you're bringing all this stuff and all this knowledge and all this emotion from your own life, and you're plugging it in. And if you're not the right age group or the right social group, and you kind of come to it, it doesn't have the same punch, because you're not connected to the material.
Look, I watch all kinds of different films from all kinds of different eras.
Yeah.
Joe, like all sorts, man. I'd like to think that I'm not the kind of person that is about it being in one particular area or one particular era.
Yeah.
Like the key to me is it has to be a good story and a story that I personally enjoy. I don't give a shit where it's taking place. How interesting are the characters
Yeah.
within the story? How well are they developed? Is there
Yeah.
something that just personally in me I look at and go,
And there
this is
isn't a
fucking
lot of character
stupid.
development. I mean, if you're going that route, in Forrest Gump, there's not a lot of character development. He doesn't change hardly at all. She really doesn't change the type of person she is. I mean, the person with the most growth is Dan, who got injured, lost his legs, and then learned to deal with that. I mean, the best part of the story is Sergeant Dan.
Agreed.
If it was a movie more about him and less of the other stuff, it would be a far better film. It's like when you argue, what's the last Terminator film that came out?
Dark
The
Fate.
last one, Dark Fate.
Is
Dark
that
Fate was a
I
crappy
think that's
film.
right.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't
But
know.
the
There's a lot
last
of
one,
Terminator
but the
films.
last one, it was a turd. And I mean, it didn't make sense. The timeline didn't make sense. The Pastor, you spent 5-6 films keeping so and so alive, Connor alive, and then you blow him away.
Well, but
It's
you
like,
know,
well, and
the
you
whole
blow him away in the first chunk of the film too. If they did an entire film about Arnold Schwarzenegger being a Terminator left in time and learning to be a better human, and how he met a wife and raised a child, that would be a far better film than what they produced. It wouldn't particularly be what someone would say when they go to see a Terminator film, but it would be a far stronger film and a far more enjoyable film. Because it would be all about his growth and his learning and all of that, and it would be a side of the Terminator thing that you never saw before. It would go back to the second film, which is the strongest film, where they talk about the ability to learn and have abilities and actually emulate or learn how to be more human.
Let me just take this to a really dark, screwy place real quick, Joe. So you're going through and Terminator and like Arnold really starts dating, and every time they get to where they have sex, he's just so forceful, he's just killing chicks. he's just like breaks them in half. They're dead. Like it takes him like killing 10 females in a sexual situation before he realizes,
Well, see,
oh,
that would be that'd be a different style story, but that would still be more interesting than this movie they actually produced. I mean, I would say that would be like choice number 2 out of the 3, and the actual film they made would be the worst.
if they made that film, firstly, I'm gonna be like, seriously? That's hilarious. I'll watch it just because it's hilarious, but I can't believe they did that. Like, they
Yeah,
really, they
that's
really,
like a Sharknado type film.
they
It's like
brought,
it's got enough weirdness and enough uniqueness. It's like, I know this is not going to be a great film, but I'm really curious and I'm willing to buy in because I'm curious about where you're going, man. You know,
like, how are you
but
gonna
that's
take this film?
exactly what you have.
That's no, what that was Hollywood was just really upset with this little screenwriter guild strike, and they ended up hiring a crackhead to write a Terminator film.
Don't give them ideas, man.
Oh,
And based on the crap AI puts out, you might actually get a better script than the crackhead.
I mean,
I don't know how much you want to get into the AI thing or where you sit on it. I think
let's get into it then. Let's get into it. Look, 'cause like,
morally, it's a
well,
crap show.
well, real quick,
And I mean,
let's
that's
just
the
say,
implied because
yeah,
it's massive theft.
before we
It's
get
basically
into it real
massive theft
quick,
and massive copying.
yeah. Before we get into it real quick, I just want to say, for anybody that wants to see an in-depth discussion, including Laverne
sorry.
Kaczynski, Mike Ruth, Hugh Rookwood, and Dominic Mercier, go check out the AI PanCon that we had, where we got very in-depth about AI art. As far as where I stand on it, Joe, I have never seen a worse intro for a TV show in my fucking life than Secret Invasion. And
I'll be
I've
honest.
never
I have not watched that series because of that intro.
look.
I saw part of that intro. And they said the situation. It's like, you know what? I not only don't have interest in that intro, I don't have that much interest in that series.
I love Samuel L. Jackson as
package.
an actor. I love him as an actor, and he's done phenomenally as Nick Fury. Mike actually told me the same thing. He won't watch the series specifically because of that. But look, I love the Secret Invasion storyline, mainly
Okay,
because, like,
I'll probably watch it in a few years after. It doesn't really matter to them anymore if I'm watching it.
well,
You know what I mean? Once the initial numbers are in, and they kind of see what they did, and they're like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll watch it now.
it's not done well, and I think it is in part because of that intro. You know what I mean? Because they
Yeah.
had a great opportunity to pay homage to the comic book series, to do so many things in that
They've done
moment.
so many outstanding
Yeah,
intros in the past.
yeah.
I mean, you look at like some of the Avengers intros, like some of the Captain America ones, where they have all those nice deep graphics and all that beautiful design. I mean, really top class, notable work. And then you're just popping that one in, and it's just like it doesn't belong there. You know, I mean, and the worst insult to fact is you can put next to stuff that's so good. But the other intros were crappy too. It'd be like, it's different crap.
Yeah,
But
like
that's
comparing
not the situation.
like comparing it to the Hawkeye intro, which paid great homage to the Matt Faction run. I mean,
Oh
for
yeah,
anybody that's read Matt Faction and the run he did on Hawkeye,
right.
and if you watch the intro, if you just go look at the covers of Matt Faction's run, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
go watch
Yeah,
the intro to that, and you'll be like, oh, damn. Go look at the covers of Secret Invasion, and then
yeah,
watch the intro to that, and be like, oh,
yeah.
damn. Yeah, you're saying oh damn in two
Well,
totally different methods, man. But and as far as where I stand on it, like I said, no, I think it's bad. I agree with you. It's fully theft. I think people don't realize in a lot of ways what exactly is being done as far as to make these programs work and what they're doing and what they're using and the fact that it's screwing artists, man. I mean, I can't. I
and
if
it's
they
gonna,
start generating fucking scripts
yeah,
by
and it's
Chat
gonna be more
GP.
than artists.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and it's already showing up in writers. It's already showing up in other fields. I mean, and why the hell you start? I mean, the reason they probably start with artists is because artists have a hard time unionizing and getting together as a group, probably just because of the work style there is. You know, I mean, there isn't like a cartoonist union. There isn't like an artist union. And honestly, with the multiple employers and the way it's set up, it would be incredibly hard for something like that to ever be set up,
Well, and
which makes it easier picking.
I actually discussed this with Heather Antos at one point during her quest, because we were discussing the AI art as far as what they could do in the capacity to deal with that, as well as making it where they were getting fair wages. Just again based on some things we were discussing, and
Yeah,
I brought up the fact of unionizing, and she made the great point that the second you make a comic book union, there's a lot of people that you're no longer going to be able to see working on comic books because they're not in the U.S. They are
yeah.
completely in outside countries. You would
And
have to have a Canadian
there is
version. You
far
would.
more foreign artists than you realize. And well,
Joe.
you
No,
can't.
look.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's an awkward thing, and I get it because I mean, like, I print my own books, I do my own stuff, and I understand. I'm people. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Comics, from a money standpoint, is a terrible, terrible, god awful business. The numbers are bad. Even when the numbers are good, the numbers are bad. If you put it together, the printing costs, the cost for the talent, the cost for it's incredibly difficult to make a profit, particularly if you're paying of all the positions are paid positions. Not more so if they're well paid positions. And that's not being like a greedy capitalist. That's I gotta try to pay for this book and I have to try at least make my money back off of it type of perspective of it. And that's why you get people in other countries, they're saying, I'm willing to do coloring for 20, $30 a page. And yeah, I respect artists that are here, but they're charging like $120 a page. If I have to hire it out, I can't afford them. It's not like a me discriminating issue. It's a me doesn't have a big enough wallet issue.
Okay, well, firstly, if you need a colorist, I got a couple great ones I could recommend that are not in this country. And as far as you saying, I don't like you don't really realize how many artists are outside of this country. You're right. Before I started this show, I had no idea how many people in the comic book industry, especially artists, weren't in this country. Since I've started this show, and we've been on so many phenomenal quests with so many people, I'm like, holy hell, I'm not interviewing a lot of people in the US. Like, I'm really, really not. Like, I'd have to go back and actually look, but I know for a fact that nowhere near half of the quests that I've
I
been
was gonna
on
say
this
I'd
show are
be
US.
amazed if you're much above 30%. If you
Huh?
actually did the math, I'd be surprised if you're over 30.
I would as well. I wouldn't be surprised if 50% of the people that have been on the show are from Canada.
Socialized healthcare, better cost of living, better education, cheaper education. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to sound anti-American, but just looking at the situation, the numbers, yeah, Canada supports the arts. Canada has like what they used to, what was it, the Canadian artists? There used to be a whole unit that would just pay or help pay for animation and that stuff to be done, paid for by the government or backed by the government to help people create. You don't have that here. You're probably never going to have that here until there's a massive, massive change.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah, and I
it does.
totally agree.
You know, it's AI, and that's the same type of problem. You're cutting jobs. Not only cutting jobs, you're cutting the low end jobs, cutting the jobs that people get into the business on. You know, you're taking the bottom runs off the ladder, and you're trying to make people high jump to try and hit that new bottom run, which is now way higher than it used to be.
And yeah, and I think there's something very fundamentally wrong about that. And I think the main and biggest problem that I think we'll encounter with AI is the fact that it's people being like, oh, well, I can just go create it, and I want it, and I want it, and we, as a society, I'd say almost pretty much as a whole at this point, have very much become about instant gratification through any streaming service you can name. The fact that you can get things so quick. So this is just another level of, oh, I want to see a certain character from a show dressed up as a comic book character. Go type it into fucking whatever the shit AI program you're using. You know what I mean? And boom, there it is. I'll tell you a
I
funny
want to
thing.
create. I want to create an AI program called "What the Shit."
I'll tell
I
you a
think
funny thing.
that is now a goal of my life.
My wife at one point was doing an AI thing, and I remember what it was supposed to. It was supposed to turn you into something like some kind of something, and it's on like fucking
They have one. It's supposed to turn
TikTok.
you like a cartoon, and it's really interesting how it works. It's basically it identifies colors and then it flattens them in certain ranges. It's interesting how it works, and it's total art theory being plugged into a program.
Look. I
And
think that's the one she
the
used on
people
me.
don't look great, but I'm in love with the backgrounds. It's
Okay,
like,
look.
man,
You want to know
if
something
I broke
fucked
down
up?
and started doing AI, I wouldn't even use it for people. I would just use it to make nicer backgrounds.
Here,
And
let me tell
I
you
was
something.
jazzed to have that. And I'd even be willing to go out and take the photographs. So
Here,
I'd use my own photos to get those backgrounds. You
let me tell
know?
you something real screwy about that though. It was something like that on TikTok that she was using on me. She takes a picture of me about from where you can see up to my head. And look, I'm a firm believer in Sherlock. I have a mind palace. Sometimes it takes me a second to find a room within my mind palace for a particular fucking piece of information that's there. I swear to God, it made my head a palace. It was the weirdest fucking thing I have ever like. It did. It took this picture of me and just swiped across, and it made this road leading up to this huge palace type building
Yeah.
that was in the shape of my skull. And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, I told you I had a fucking mind palace. She didn't know what to say. She's like, that's so weird. I'd be like, yeah, I am the unknown factor. That thing don't know how to
Yeah.
interpret my
Yeah.
ass.
What I will say is while I don't considering doing the AI stuff and typing in the descriptions art, there's definitely a knack to it. It's like when you're searching Google and you're trying to find a particular thing, and you keep rewording it different ways and find different ways to say it, or comparing it. There's a definite talent to kind of figuring out how to actually get a good enough description of what you want to actually get to where you're going. And I don't think that counts as art, but I will say it's a definite knack.
Yeah,
it's a bit tough. It's tough on people, and the problem is people consider it a big hassle to hire an artist. People consider it a big hassle to go find someone, and the quality's not as good. But for a certain percentage of people, it isn't going to matter to them. It's like, oh, I want Mickey Mouse humping a porcupine, and they type that in, and they get their image, and they're happy with it. Only problem is that could have been work for someone else, and that's now gone. That income stream is taken away from so-and-so. That's taken away from little Bob, who wants to be a cartoonist in the future and is trying to make some money to put to his first book of comic strips or whatever.
Yeah, no, I fully agree, man. And not even that. It's literally taking the work of other artists, and that's how it's being able to generate this art, because it's learning. Note the fucking finger quotes. Learning from other artists.
See, there's a difference, and I'll put this in basic art terms. There's a difference between me going and looking up pictures of people and buildings and then sitting down and drawing them while looking at those pictures than there is for me taking that picture of a person and building, sticking them on my light table, and tracing them. And that's about the same difference you're talking about, because people try to blur the line there. They say, well, artists look at reference, artists look at other things. Artists look at and they do. That's not a wrong statement. But the truth is, I'm looking at something and I'm redrawing it.
Yes,
it's basically doing the same as tracing. It's looking at something, plopping it down on the table, and it's going over the top and making a new copy of it. And that's kind of the difference.
No, because you're right. Like Mike Ruth, he's seen many a picture of Swamp Things, but I watched him hand draw that on the fucking show. All right.
Yeah.
I watched him hand draw and ink this, as well as you can see him and several other artists, including Jason Sylvester, on an upcoming PanCon, another upcoming sketch in PanCon, doing live sketches on the show where they're drawing crazy things that come out of my brain. Really, really crazy things. Just go check the PanCon list for all y'all over on wherever you. Well, if you're on the YouTube, you can check the PanCon list. If you're anywhere else, you're just gonna have to scroll back and find the fucking PanCons, because I can't divide them up like that on there. Sorry. But if you're on the YouTube, it's divided into playlists, and there's the PanCons, and you can find the sketches ones real easy. But to watch Mike draw this and how he did it, as opposed to somebody entering prompts, if you don't realize just by looking at those two techniques that one's an artist, one's a hack, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
One of the big, there's the sort of the tracing versus drawing, and there's also things that when you're drawing stuff, you really got to know what stuff looks like. And I mean that more than just what you're staring at. You need to, you're drawing a car, you need to know how the base works. You know that there's four wheels. You need to know that the front bumper is kind of attached like that. Just sort of general knowledge that isn't particularly visual, but it causes you to do a better visual. You kind of have to know what stuff looks like and how it works, and kind of be putting that into what you're doing. And that's totally gone.
Oh yeah.
There's no concept of it being a physical object. There's no concept of those doors opening up. There's no concept of like the fact that it's an animal, the fact that you put wings on the back and that it has a small chest, and there's no musculature to actually move the wings. Stuff like that. There's no inner logic. There's no knowledge of how it will function.
So I see you're not a fan of AI. Yeah.
No, I admit there's moments I get kind of stuck. It's like, oh, that'd be kind of neat, and it's like, but it's really just not. It's not right for the most part, and it's not good for the most part. So you really kind of have both ends. You're not in a good position.
And I think that's the thing about me. I've seen several examples of AR. Hell, I've had discussions with a couple people, and they end up mad at me as far as online because I think I even at one point had somebody that did AR art that wanted to come on the show, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm sorry, you're not an artist, and and they didn't fucking like those words coming out of my mouth. You know what I mean?
No, that's a very unpopular view. People, well, remember the general rule of thumb. People want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. People are happiest when they hear you saying what they agree with. So once you've already upset that apple cart, you're already heading in the wrong direction. And the problem is whether they actually believe it or people just want to hear. Most people, when they're working on stuff or people are doing things, whether it's right or wrong, they want to hear another voice say, "Yeah, that's that's all right, that's okay, that's good, whatever." They want to hear reassurance, and I think that's part of the reason that some AI people get so cheesed off when you dare question their artistic ability or their artistic merit. And it's like I'm not trying to attack you personally, but you're kind of on the wrong side of the fence here, and they don't want to hear it.
I think most AI people must be pro-Trump.
Does that mean it's okay to make nasty pro-Trump art now? I'll use AI for that. So I'd rather not waste my time drawing his ass.
That would be the best use of AI art, just making just crappy, just terrible things about Trump. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I would say in that case, man, if that's the only way you can make it, use AI art. Or literally just go through all the quests we have. I guarantee there's an artist that you could hit up in some capacity. There's probably links in the description to hit that artist up, and you can commission them to make something for you. I promise. There are literally ways during this quest where if you go through and you like something, you could hit that artist up and be like, "Hey man, I'll pay you blah blah blah. I want this, and how much?" And you're gonna have to negotiate with them. It's not gonna be as easy in there in a prompt. You're literally gonna have to pay, but you also will have an original piece of artwork.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Not something that ooh, I typed in some words and look what came out. No, it'll be something that you knew somebody took time and craft and skill to make.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm curious to this, man, because in Sean Damon Hill's quest, he said he feels that art is more of a skill than a talent, right? What's your opinion on that?
First of all, you need to start defining skill and talent, because
Skill
how you
being
define those
something.
two things
All right,
is
all right,
literally
all
going
right.
to build the rest of your argument.
All right.
I'm not trying to pull back, but I'm saying this is step one.
All right.
And I would say
Step one would be
skill is what you learn, and
yeah,
talent
you're just
is
smooth.
what you have or what you've developed. I do not buy into some people are natural artists. It's really, I think, more some people have a natural inclination towards it. Other people I know that were artists, the ones that have stuck with it are the ones that want to do it, that are driven for the process. They're not the ones saying, "I'm going to draw a comic because I want to be like teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I want to sell out." People who have those sort of other goals when they're going in art, they're the ones that kind of burn out or don't get anywhere. It's the people that actually say, "I enjoy creating this. I enjoy thinking this out. I enjoy doing the stories. I enjoy the drawing. I enjoy I enjoy creating." Those are the ones that have more staying power because they're on the right track. And that's not like God gave me a better drawing talent than you. No, it's like I've worked on it more because that's what I'm driven to do. Therefore, I'm doing it better because I've put in more time and experience.
Do you think that has to do with a lot of creatives um, It's the word I'm looking for without offending
I'm
anybody.
waiting for it because I'm thinking of several bad things to say here.
Like,
And most of them
I'm,
are true.
I'm trying to word this to where it won't offend.
I joked when I was teaching ITT that you can kind of tell artists a certain way off. There are a good number that are dyslexic. There are a good number that are really good with numbers and really shitty with pronunciation of stuff.
Hey,
There's like 4 or 5 different
was that
traits,
an
and it's like if
accusation?
you actually sort
Wait,
of look at the artist, it's like, yeah, slightly dyslexic, socially awkward, good with numbers, not good with pronunciations or exact names of stuff.
or just really
People that
good.
go in the drawing are people that have trouble doing everything verbally. It's almost like that if you have some issues, verbalizing what you're saying, you're more likely to fall back on images because you can communicate with images what you're having issues with trying to communicate in words.
All right, look, some of them though, are just really good at putting things together. Their pronunciation just sucks, but yo, they're really good at puzzles.
Oh yeah, no, it's a different skill. It's like I'll be like with me. I am terrible at names, but when it comes to like concepts and stuff, I know how stuff works. If you ask me how the triangle trade worked or how an engine works for this or that, I'll be great at it. And if you ask me what year such and such happened, I am probably going to skunk it. It's just that's not my skill. I'll know how it works. I'll remember a person. I'll remember what they like. It's the conversation, this or that, and I'll sit there and I'll be stuck on the name. It's a different part of your brain. It's a different skill. And like I said, and what people say, no, it seems to be not everyone, but it seems to be fairly common.
I can confirm that it is pretty common. And I mean, I'd say that specifically just because of everyone that we've had on the show and the fact that you notice things and it's like, oh, yo, that's dope. I mean, to me it is anyways, like just to see all that and to realize that like some of the most creative people, and I think this is throughout the span of human history, are people that if they weren't able to take that part of themselves and use it to that manner, oh my God, society would fucking look down on them. But because they are, there's part of society that goes, oh, that's really cool. I could never do that. And part of me wants to be like, yeah, no shit, you can never do that because your brain's not fucking wired like that. Like it's just it's not wired like that, which is fine. I'm not saying that's a problem, but I think it's a problem that we as a society don't look at the people whose brains are wired different and go, if we help them along with what they were trying to do and what they did, we as a species would probably be far closer to, Star Trek as opposed to Star fucking Wars.
This is a huge, and oh gosh, you're going to get me into trouble here because I know a lot of teachers and I've taught too. The education system looks for certain things, mainly that are easily testable and easily trackable to show growth because it's easy to fit in the charts for statistics. Look at how much testing we do as a country. Look at how much testing you do in school. And why can't you retake multiple tests multiple times? If the point of view is to learn stuff, isn't it more important that you learn it, even if you got to take the same test 2 or 3 times, than to say, oh, you took this test, you blew it, you got a D, now you can suck on it for the rest of the semester. That doesn't help you with the grade. That doesn't help you with your education. That doesn't help you with your knowledge. For some people who have the right type of brain and are good at memorizing and are good with that type of stuff, they excel at it. For other people who may have great skills in other places and to be able to do other things aren't, and they get hammered for it. And I was in school, I was a mediocrity, and I worked my butt off to be mediocre. You know what I mean? It's not like I was goofing off and this and that. I worked very hard to bring in B's and C's. You know,
It's funny because I was considered like very much at the opposite end of that early on in school, like the first several grades. Um, but then you get so far along and suddenly the pattern changes.
high school
And
changes a lot. Junior high and high
yeah,
school,
yeah,
because I was I was actually pretty strong in the lower grades, except for like one or two subjects. But then yeah, especially high school and math. I mean, my brain works math is like logic, and it's really easy to do, and this and that. As soon as you start giving me like formulas and stuff, and I'm doing things, but I don't know why they work, my brain just blew. I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't understand why it works. I can't logic through why I'm getting the numbers. I can't deal with it. You know, and that's just the way I'm wired. It doesn't work for me.
yeah. And
So I can sit there and I can count out change. I can do all complex simple math, and I can do it without hardly thinking. It's just like boom. This is this 84, 92, da 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 boom. You know, it's just second nature. But then you say, well, calculate the area of that circle, and here's your formula. It's just like, you know, we're in trouble now.
yeah, no, I can honestly and sincerely totally relate to that, man. And I think that's a problem systemically with our system is the fact that we don't focus enough on people and their individual traits because if we did, I think, like I said, we would be farther along as far as what we could accomplish. I mean, you would
Yeah.
have, but we don't do that. We want, like, what it essentially boils down to is they don't want creative free thinkers. They want fucking worker bees.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember that quote. There's a quote, and I forget. It's like Socrates or something. How artists are the most dangerous people to society because they travel freely between the different levels of society, and it has a different meaning then than now because you know their society was more divided at different levels. But the idea is still very correct. You know, art's dangerous because art makes you see other people's point of view. Art gives you other people's perspectives. And like when you talk about some of the stuff that's going on now where they try to break people into different groups and separate them and saying, well, if he's conservative and he believes that, and this person's this and I don't like that. If you actually see the people, it's like if you know someone who's like transgender, you think about that totally differently than someone who's never met anyone like that and only knows what they see like on whatever news they hear. You know, and that's the difference between actually being able to relate and kind of as a person instead of as sort of like a concept which depending on what source it can be kind of vilified or codified into a certain thing.
Man, you know what? To hell with that, because those same people are like, yeah, let the police have the Punisher skull, and you can blow it out your ass with that shit. I'm serious. Like, if anybody, and I know we've discussed this several times on the show in the past.
Yeah.
Me and Dave have gotten into it, but for anybody out there that thinks it's cool and if you're a cop too, especially if you're a cop watching this show and you're like, yeah, you got the Punisher skull, would you fuck the fuck off? All right, like.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm so happy that Marvel's coming out with a new Punisher. Have you seen that?
I have. I'm curious to see how they're going to do it.
Whole new ass.
I always enjoyed the story of Frank Castle as a damaged man. You know what I mean? But it's to read the story and understand that he is a man that is damaged, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. He's not. It's not someone that you want to model yourself at.
That's not what's getting. It's basically glorifying the violence and the shoot 'em up answer to things, and that's the problem with the symbol because it's not about the whole story. It's not about the whole story. It's about he has big guns and he shoots people he doesn't like, and isn't that cool? And that's what it basically is. It's like a sticker that says that. It's like a smiley face for shooting people. I like shooting people. Here's death. Here's, you know, that's what's become. That's kind of what the symbol has become. And at that level, it's just like it's wrong. It's wrong to the character. It's wrong just generally, and what do you do with it? And Marvel kind of said, "Oh, we're going to back off of it." And then, like, I think just this month or around San Diego Con, it's like, "Oh, here's the new Punisher. Here's the new logo." Da 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 da.
I think it was actually announced at San Diego Comic-Con, if memory serves me proper. But
I saw it, and I'm not sure if it was a Comic-Con announcement or what. I know it's within the last few weeks.
Yeah, it was really recent.
I know it's recent.
Yeah, because I seen it as well. I'll tell you the funnier thing more than anything is to realize that the police used him as a role model or whatever. And like my favorite character, like I said, I'm the Wade Wilson of hip hop. I love Deadpool. That is literally a better role model than the one that they use. Not that that's a good one either, I want to point out, but it's a better one than the one they use. And
you can like Deadpool, but don't be like Deadpool.
Yeah. Dude, Deadpool has more lines than the Punisher does.
Oh yeah.
Which is just dude, it's so screwy. It makes my head hurt. It really does.
I'm gonna spin this around a little bit to subject what you didn't bring up with cartoons, the magazine, and with Barrel Grease Monkeys, which is part of their kid friendliness. Is we've been told to lay off a couple things, including guns. And I honestly have no issue with it. I find as I get older that I have less interest in introducing a lot of large weapons into my stories and my universe in general. And the only scary thing is you realize how much and how many stories depend on whipping out heavy weaponry is the answer to everything. And you really got to kind of pause and think a little bit. It's like, okay, we're not going to shoot this out. He's not going to break out a giant weapon. What's another way to solve it?
You pull out a little bit more
socially helpful. Yeah, even a fist fight. I mean, a fist fight is not good, but honestly, a couple of people get some bruised knuckles and maybe a black eye, and they all go on their way and have another day.
I didn't say a fist fight. I said you pull 3 claws out of your fist, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I misheard. I just,
shink.
But no, I mean, especially, and like I said, in movies particularly, and comics not as much, but you still see, it's just like, what's the answer? Just bust out the weapons. Where's the big guns? Boom, boom, boom. It's like, think. There's better ways to do it. There's other ways to do it. Unfortunately, people kind of internalize stuff from stories, and we were constantly told that the answer to everything is whip out your weapon. Next thing you know, you have idiots in Florida running around Kmart with their weapons so they can be secure as they buy their crackers. Crackers for crackers. That's a very important thing. What I'm saying,
did you really just say crackers for crackers, Joe?
It was not pre-planned. It just literally fell out of my mouth. But by the way, that could be Cracker Barrel's official advertising slogan from now on, and it would fit perfect.
Cracker Barrel. Crackers for crackers. Open.
See? Don't worry about those game muffins. They'll take care of it.
Oh my god, dude.
See, this is why I kind of stay away from the political stuff, because I will get myself. I used to do political arts way back when I was in college. I get myself into too much trouble because I'm way too big of a stinker.
All right, let's flip this.
And I will just dig myself holes for the fun of it, and then later on, it's like the way back. It's like,
I dig enough holes with my music, Joe. You're gonna get me on other lists that I don't want to be on as well, right? But I just gotta say, we're gonna flip back to the questionnaire real quick. I think it's funny that you said Mystery Men for best or favorite film based on a comic.
It was totally unique at its time. And it is, in its own way, a brilliant film. The fact that they set up a main character and totally fry him within the first 10 minutes or so of the film. I mean, that was just, I mean, not only is it a hero film, but it's a hero film. It's one of the first ones, and it took almost a completely unique perspective at doing it.
It still would have been
You
funny
know,
if they'd have done the flaming carrot.
there was talk of a flaming carrot film, and I think it was something between special effects and sellability to people who are outside of the know.
Well, no,
That
that's what became.
together kind of. I mean, that's the reason why the flaming carrot's not in there.
Yeah, but that's
It was discussed, and they kind of said, you know, we don't know if we can sell this. We don't know if we can special effect this. Yeah, well, let's give a guy a shovel instead and call it a day.
Well, no, the mystery men are all. I mean, you realize those are all characters from the flaming carrot.
Oh yeah,
Carrot
yeah,
film.
I know the comics. Yeah,
I figured you would.
at one point they were talking about having the carrot as part of the film, and I think it got worked out partly because of the visual and partly because of the other. They just didn't think they could sell it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could see it definitely being both aspects because I definitely think that would have been a difficult visual to pull off, especially in that.
Well, think of the time period too. I mean, you're talking about this within 5 years, Howard and Duck. Just to give you an idea of practical effects and the quality you could be expecting of that carrot.
Yeah, it would have been rough. But I just think it's funny that you say that, man, because so many people have wait, because no, wait, that's Alan Moore, right? Mystery Men is Alan Moore.
I think so. I feel bad that I can't
No,
say that.
shit, I'm thinking of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. My apologies. Too many films, and I am terrible with names. I really, really am. So yeah, no, that's not Alan Moore. Alan Moore's gonna whoop my ass if I ever get him on the show for saying like I didn't make the fucking flaming carrot. I'd be like, my bad, dude. You're right. You made the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's right. Oops. All right. So before I screw anything else up, all right, we're gonna say I want to point out, Joe. It's been a pleasure, man, for real. Everybody, make sure you check the links in the description. You can find all kinds of stuff to Joe's work, as well as you've seen pictures right over here of all kind of stuff that Joe's done. Right here. There's been pictures to this whole. If you're only noticing now when I'm pointing them out, you have not been paying attention to the screen, or you're on a platform where you don't watch the video. But right over here, there's been pictures of all kinds of Joe's work, right? Because that's what we do on all the shows. Right now, Joe. Joe, you killing me, Joe. You killing me. All right, I'm serious.
You know, I just knocked out 2 in a row, and you can use this one later.
Huh? No, look, no.
You want to knock out a second one in a row, and you can just use the second one later.
No, that's not what I'm talking about, Joe. Is you killing me because like you didn't answer these questions, right? But that's okay because during this conversation, I figured out a couple things. I did. So, right, I want to let you know if you've enjoyed this interview, right? What I want you to do is I want you to send Joe some really good Italian or Mexican food, or some of them OG Star Wars Kenner figures, right? Like particularly the snow or the speed racer, right? Particularly those. If you've enjoyed this interview with Joe, now he made this in a bit hard because he didn't answer particular questions on my questionnaire, right? But that's fine. In the bulk of this conversation, I figured out that if
Keep on your toes.
But if you for some reason have not enjoyed this interview, Joe is just like annoys you to the point where you're like, man, I don't like this dude. What I want you to do is I want you to find a 12th grade high school, like senior year, and just be like, hey, Joe, this is where you get to spend the rest of your days as a student.
Oh, not that.
Yeah.
12th grade would have been 8, 9. 12. 12 was pretty stinky. Not the worst, but it was pretty stinky.
Oh, well, okay. Well, then let's change it, and you just make him go through from 8 to 12 continuously, for the rest of his life, right?
You
So
know,
Joe just made the.
you almost just described my old comic strip. Elsewhere is where they get stuck in college. And it starts with them on the first year, and then they go through until they end up looping again and again through college.
Well, you get to loop from junior high to high school again and again and again. Because from what I've gathered from this conversation, Joe, I don't think you would enjoy it at all. I really, really don't, right? So do me a favor, though, if you've enjoyed it, check out the links in the descriptions, right? Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for wherever you are so you don't miss any of the quests, because all of these quests have been phenomenal. We've had so many great creators with so many different conversations, from comic books to talking political to just going all over the whole spectrum of almost any topic you can think of, and I'm sure we've offended some people out there in the bulk of doing this show. If we haven't, we
Yeah,
ain't doing it right.
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, no, man. If you don't offend people, you just ain't doing it right, Joe. That's
I
what's up.
try to be really neutral on some stuff, and some it's not worth being neutral about. You know what I mean? You
Fully
kind of
agree.
pick your battles.
Yeah, I fully agree, Joe. Now, again, like, subscribe. Make sure you check all the links in the description. Beyond that, I want you all to do three things, right? First, give it that thumbs up. Second, get your comic on. Third, have a good night, y'all.
This is Mark McKenna here. Check me out at www.markmckennaart.com.
This is Alex Segura, author of Secret Identity.
My name is Anders Zarate.
This is Laverne Kinjerski.
This is John Ward, creator of Scratcher and a whole bunch of other crap.
It's Jason Copeland, artist and writer of Full Tilt.
You are listening to The Questionnaire.
Say that again. You got to check out The Questionnaire.
It's been super fun and entertaining, honestly. It's like just like hanging out with friends and chilling. It's cool, man. I love it. It's nice.
You need to check out The Questionnaire. I mean, you do.
Whatever file format you want, or even a carrier pigeon.
New episodes every week.
Jeez, I better write that shit down.
I love y'all, and it's a hell of a quest.